Okay. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Faster Masters Rowing Radio, where having a rowing coach only makes you better, and following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident rower who is respected by your peers, become the athlete you want to row with. I'm Marlene Royal. Rebecca is away this week, so we would like to welcome you. In today's show, we're going to be showcasing the events at the San Diego Crew Classic, particularly the events for masters. And we have Bobbie Smith with us, the executive director of the San Diego Crew Classic, to tell us all about it. And the sponsor of this webinar is the 50th San Diego Crew Classic. And the regatta is going to be held March 31st through April 2nd in 2003. And we've got a lot, the entries have already opened, so there is a lot of interest in this year's Masters events. And Bobbie is going to give us the full rundown and bring us up to date on the most current events of what is happening with the regatta. And I'm going to bring Bobbie in right now. And hi, Bobbie, welcome.
Hi, good to see everyone.
Yes, yes.
So I guess, first of all, welcome to everybody. We're very excited to be having our 50th San Diego Crew Classic this year. For anybody who doesn't know, the San Diego Crew Classic was started initially so that East and West crews could meet and we could showcase everyone that's fast on the West Coast, as well as all of those that they were typically competing against on the East Coast, but to bring everyone out here early in the season. So we say that the rowing season starts here because we're one of the first regattas in the US that time of year.
Excellent. Could I ask you just quickly, Bobbie, could you turn your volume down on your computer just a touch?
Is that better?
Yes. There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
So, tell us about you. What's a little bit about your rowing background and how you got involved with the Crew Classic?
So I have been rowing. I started rowing in 1995 at UCLA as a walk-on, and I went to the Crew Classic that first year, and I remember thinking it was amazing. It was this huge regatta. Everything I'd ever been to was like scrimmages, or what just wasn't as big as the Crew Classic was. So it was really amazing to get to go and see this major regatta that was on the West Coast, and it wasn't very far from home, so that was great. And then I rowed for years. I rowed as a master's rower. I began coaching about 12 years ago and started coaching juniors, and love that. It's actually what brought me to San Diego from Los Angeles. Okay. And now I coach for San Diego Rowing Club, and then I became the executive director of the Crew Classic because, I love the regatta. I love rowing, everything about it. And it kind of combined, like, my degree is in engineering, and I have a business that I own. So all of it kind of combined into this position where it worked out really well.
Wow, it's quite a lot of entries and crews to manage. It's quite a large regatta now. It's at 3 days.
It is 3 days. So we expanded to Friday racing this year. It's all masters racing on Friday. And that's actually where a bunch of the expanded events have come from. So, and that's one of the reasons we're talking today, because we do have these new events. One of them being sculling. We've added sculling for the first time ever in masters. So the women's sculling event it's closed. We had
wow.
8 entries, and we now have 8 entries. So there's that. There's also what we wanted to talk about today are the new Masters Intermediate events, which are a new classification entirely. We wanted to, I'd actually talked to Rebecca and during COVID. And one of the things that she had said was that it was unfortunate that masters that are new to rowing don't have their own event. So what we wanted to do is to create something that would help grow and expand the sport and create new opportunities for people who didn't row in college or who didn't row as a junior. And so the idea behind the intermediate events is it's a master's event. You had to, in this case, you have to have started rowing within the last 5 years. We said January 1st of 2018. You can't have rowed before that. And of course, be a master's rower. So that's like, I think it's 21 or 27 and up.
Yes, exactly.
And also we ask that you not have won a major competition. So like if
Mhm.
you've won at Crew Classic, then
Right.
you would be eligible for this event is a great
Okay.
example.
Well, that opens up, I mean, that opens up so many opportunities for people. And, with I mean, masters rowing is so diverse to begin with. And, to have a new category and to sort of lead the way on a new category that opens it up for, maybe you're in your 30s and you just started rowing, or maybe in your 50s and you just started rowing. And I think it's pretty overwhelming for many masters to race against seasoned rowers and scullers that have rowed for 25 years or who have rowed on the elite level, and they've stayed in the sport or come back to the sport. And it's a whole level of, participation when you're learning the sport as an adult.
No, it's very, very different to learn it as an adult. In college alone, right? I rode 6 days a week, a couple of hours a day, and I did that for 4 years. So most masters, when they first come to sport, they row 1, 2, 3 times a week, and that's it. So it's totally different, and you're out there maybe for an hour, hour and a half. It's not fair. And
Uh-huh.
it doesn't necessarily, and it's fair in the sense that like we all have that experience and we're racing against each other for all of those of us that have that experience. But for people that are new to the sport and really want to go out and experience it, it's much harder. And you
Yeah.
had better be like the most fit person ever in order to make it into one of these boats that's traveling to regattas. And so it happens. There are individuals who stick out and manage to excel in masters rowing from the get-go and end up in good boats. But at the same time, wouldn't it be nice if we could give those people an opportunity to race and to learn how to race and to get out there and to do these things so that they learn and eventually maybe make it into those more competitive boats that take them a little bit of time because they're just learning now.
Yes. And it's a great stepping stone just for entering competition, because perhaps somebody has started rowing, but they didn't really start racing a lot yet, or they haven't gone to a major event. Whereas this opens the door for an intermediate rower to go to a really major event that is, it's a very prestigious event to win in a masters event. And there are people who train very hard for the Crew Classic, so it's an extremely competitive regatta across the board, across all the age groups. And to give that opportunity for people to come in and say, wow, like, I can go to a race at this level and I have a chance to win at this race. Whereas in a race like the Head of the Charles now, which it is such a big event, you're going to be somewhere in the middle, right? And yes, it's fun to improve every year, but it's difficult to have an opportunity to win the event. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other thing about going out and winning an event like this is that it builds people's confidence, and then it makes it more fun. So then you're more likely to want to go to more races. So then you get more experience. Everything about it helps people, and it helps our sport. People are talking about growing the sport, creating something new and different, and just being more encompassing in regards to like just welcoming people. Well, this is one way to welcome people, is to have something where, okay, you're not a novice, because we all
Mhm.
know what novice are and what that
Right.
means, but you're still not to the point where it's like, okay, but I want to be in this boat that has like former Olympians in it, because that happens all the time at Crew Classic. I have raced myself with
Sure
several
it does.
former Olympians at
Yes,
Crew
sure
Classic.
it
So
does.
it's a different boat, but you want to have like those goals and aspirations to make it into that, and you need a foundation, you need a starting point, something where you can say, you can point back and go, I did this thing, so like I'm going to continue in the sport because I want to do it again.
Yes. Well, and it gives people, actually, they have 5 years of eligibility that they can row in the event.
Absolutely, until they win it. Once they've won it, they've
Mhm.
won
Mhm.
it. But then after that, yes, absolutely, you
Mhm.
you can continue to race it, and so you can continue to work at it. If you're in your,
Yeah.
I would, if I were in my first year, there is a novice event this year too, I would
Okay.
enter that. But if you're in your second year, here you go, here's a race for you. And it's really built for those people, the people in their second, third, fourth, fifth years of rowing. But yeah, so I think it has a lot of potential for growth, and I think it is the kind of thing that will definitely help the sport.
And are the novice events new this year?
Yes, we've never had novice masters. All we've ever had before is a club event for masters and then letter races. So the letter races are based on the average age of the boat. And so it is different in that regard. We've added sculling, we've added it's a mixed novice 8, right? Because I think it's going to be harder to find 8 women in the same club unless you're an all women's club that are all novice. Whereas a mixed 8, I think, is more likely to come together. And then, so mixed novice 8, we have the 2 intermediate 8s, a men and a women's intermediate 8. We have the 2 sculling events, and then we added something in the junior side of things. But those are the big ones.
Wow, so that's 5 new masters events.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something, by the way. But anyway, there are a number of new events.
And there's the club, just the club quad. There's the club quad and then the club intermediate quad.
There isn't an intermediate quad. No, there's just the club quad.
It's just the club quad. Intermediate 8. Okay.
Intermediate 8. Yeah. We are, just so everybody knows, we're a big boats race. So it's all quads or 8s. There are 4s for the women collegiate athletes. And that's because that's what the NC2A asks of them, right? To have 2 8s and a 4. So we want to support them in regards to what they're being asked from the NC2A. Otherwise, we don't have any 4s events. We just have 8s and quads.
And what's the distance?
It's 2K. What other distance could it be?
Well, and that's actually for a masters race, that's an unusual distance.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it is, but I think it's good for everybody. Those longer distances, they make us be a little bit more in shape. You've got to train a little bit harder for a 2K. I had a coach I used to work with. He used to say you could fake a 1K, but you couldn't fake a 2K. I can go for 4 minutes, but 8. Woo.
Yeah, I know. And there's a little bit more tolerance. I think if you look at the events, like say the novice event and the intermediate event, I mean, one of the definite differences between racing 1K and racing 2K, like in a 1K race, your start is about 8% of your race. So it's a really high percentage of your race. So if you have any bad start, any bad stroke, you really don't have any time to recover from that. Whereas in a 2K race, your start sequence is worth about 4%. So it's not as, for crews who are maybe a little bit less experienced, it's not as impactful if something goes a little bit haywire or crazy at the start, or, if you have a bad stroke here and there, in 2K, you've got a little bit more time. I mean, it's still a pretty challenging distance, but we've got a little bit of time to recover from a bad stroke. Whereas in 1K, it's just so quick,
You can definitely recover in a 2K. However, every bad stroke's pretty painful.
Yeah, yes. And that now it's not the third 250, it's the third 500.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I knew somebody who raced a 1K in thirds rather than in quarters, and you definitely cannot do that with a 2K.
No, a little bit more strategy. And for our listeners, the regatta date is March 31st. So it fits in very, very well for having a really strong winter training goal. I think that's one thing that's really, it coincides with the collegiate season. Obviously, it's a strategic time for the collegiate season, but also I think for masters, it's a great way to lead into the next on-water season, and it gives you some really solid training goals over the winter, which you should be starting to think about in December. Don't wait till after the holidays if you want to be in have a really competitive race. Like, don't wait till the last minute to start training for 2K.
In fact, hopefully we all train for head racing season. So this is just like the way forward, right? Like head racing season is almost like the base. And now we've got like winter training. And then this is what the real point is spring and summer racing.
Yes, exactly. Because, they're sort of, there's the indoor championships, which I think is a little bit early this year.
I want to say it's like in February, maybe.
It's the beginning of February. The indoor championships, where typically it's more like the third week of February. So it's almost like only 2 weeks between. Oh no, well, no, I guess Crew Classic is a bit later. I'm thinking they're a little bit closer. But so you can train for Crash Bees and then have a little break and then tune up again for Crew Classic.
Well, and if you're training for Crash Bees, is it 2K for Masters?
Yes.
For me, it's always been 2K. Yeah. I know that there's like 1K races too. So then you're already naturally training for that distance anyway, and it'll go faster on the water.
Exactly.
So you're ready. Mentally, you're definitely ready.
Yes, it's a lot more fun on the water too.
Absolutely. Well, there's teammates, people to pull for. I love being in a boat myself.
And tell us a little bit, what is the definition for the club events versus the lettered events of the Masters 8?
So in a club event, you have to compete for the same club all weekend. So I know one of the concerns that people have are Rolodex crews, as people call them. And those crews, though, so you can race for one of them in our club event, but you have to race for that club all weekend long. So if you're then racing in a letter event, it has to be a composite boat. It would not be a boat for a club. But one of the things that we are going to do this year is, in any club event that has more than 12 entries, we are going to award a medal. So we'll award the winner. There will be an overall winner. They will receive the trophy. They're the person who won the event. But we're also going to give a trophy to the actual club. And we're going to define club, I believe, as being within 50 miles of the boathouse. So every person in the boat needs to be within 50 miles. So we'll have 2 winners, likely, for some of the club events. And it's because, like, I'm a part of a club. I row for the San Diego Rowing Club, and everybody who races for us at the event lives within 50 miles of our club. And so those people, I don't know, I think that you do kind of deserve a medal for being part of an actual crew that meets together and goes out, 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 days a week, depending on the master's program. And you're out there working together every day. It is different than, I've been part of crews where I was asked to come and race for a club that, like, I hadn't necessarily trained with, but it was, because I was racing under their umbrella, it was fine. And that's not quite as fair. I don't want to say it's not fair. Like, I get it. I did it.
It's a different culture.
Yes, doing that. So, like, exactly. I get it. But at the same time, I'd like to encourage our actual clubs, right? The people that are out there working together every day. They're friends. They've got each other's back in more ways than one. So that was the goal of that medal.
And what is the medal called?
What do you mean, the medal? The club, as in the club medal. I don't have a name for the club medal that we would give as an award. Do you have any ideas?
We'll think of one for sure.
To give it a name.
We'll consult with Rebecca. I'm sure we'll come up with something for you.
Oh, I would love that. Because this is, that it's most likely to be for our actual club 8, not the intermediate club 8. If you're talking about the intermediate club 8, that would be the Faster Masters Intermediate Men's and Women's Club 8. That does have a name, but when it comes to the secondary medal in the club events, we don't have one for that yet.
Well, I think it's a really nice way to award the club culture, because in Masters rowing, we have so much diversity of people, right? And so there are people who travel to race with their teammates, or there's people who join composite crews. And so right now the Crew Classic has composite crews. It has intermediate crews. It has a novice crew for Masters. And then you have our Masters A, B, D, all the way up to G. So you've covered.
We even have H and I. To be honest, once you get into F+, we will give a medal to everybody in each age group. Like, that's our opinion, because as far as I'm concerned, Masters that are still showing up at 75, 80 years old, 85, like at our own boathouse, please, if you guys win and you go out there and you compete, you deserve a medal.
Absolutely. And even if you run them in the same event, I mean, they're still racing the people of their own age group. And
Exactly.
as we see in, this year, the head of the Hooch was huge and the head of the Charles was huge, and they've got groups going into the 80-year-olds now. So it's, those places will get filled, because now the 75 to 79-year-old group is saying, well, I can't wait till my 80th birthday so I can change age categories.
I want to race up.
Exactly. I want to race up another category. And we're very excited at Faster Masters Rowing that we will be the sponsor of the Intermediate 8 trophy. I think that's very exciting for us as well.
Yeah, we're excited to share it with you. And like I said, part of it is because Rebecca actually was the one who inspired it. We had a conversation during COVID, and she said, what about opportunities for people in their first few years as masters? And I thought that is a great question, and I'm glad she asked it.
Well, the fact that you've taken the horse by the reins, I think, is wonderful. And we've got our fingers crossed that it will spread into other major events and start maybe, creating more events for this actual group of masters rowers, and which they can be eligible for 5 years, so go for novice year, go for your, you've got 4 or 5 years you can row intermediate. I think it's just wonderful. And I'm going to put up on the screen, if anyone would like more information about the Crew Classic, the website is www.crewclassic.org. The registration is on Regatta Central.
So and it is currently open.
Yep, it is currently open as of October 24th, I think it said today. And the Crew Classic website has all the regatta information and about accommodations, parking, everything you need to know about vendors, everything you need to know about the regatta. Also, if people would like to come to the regatta as a vendor. And
and actually, something that you mentioned, Rebecca created a forum in your app for anybody who would, for instance, like to be part of an intermediate 8, but maybe they don't have a boat. So if you want to put one together, she was suggesting that you kind of communicate in that forum on the app.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Faster Masters app is a free app. It can be downloaded through at the Apple Store and the Google Store, wherever you get your apps, it's available. And it is a free app. And once you have to create a login, you have to create an account to use the app, but it is free, and it's got all of our websites are there. And then if you do subscribe to any of our products or webinars, you can also access them through the app. But down in the More button are the forums, and we've started the discussion group for the San Diego Crew Classic. So that is one way that people can easily connect with each other between the people who are within Faster Masters. So we definitely encourage people to use that. And
me too. I would love to have a Faster Masters 8 out there as well. It's like we've got the trophy. If they won it, it would be like so synergetic. It'd be great.
I know. Well, we may have to work on that. If we give Rebecca the idea, I'm sure she'll start working on something. But if anyone would also like information, the email is info@crewclassic.org. So, feel free to connect the organizing committee. And if you have questions, they would love international crews to come, and just help to spread the word of Masters Rowing. So I'm going to, thank you so much, Bobbie, for spending this time with us and kind of, just kind of pumping up the energy of the Crew Classic and letting people know that, hey, we're creating more opportunities, and the Crew Classic is right at the forefront of that. So I think that's really, really exciting.
So we're very excited to be doing this. So we just hope that everybody comes out and races. That's what we want.
Yes, absolutely. And do you live stream the regatta?
We do. We have a YouTube channel. It's San Diego. It's like Crew Classic, I think, is our YouTube handle. I know that was recently a thing. And we live stream the whole weekend. Friday racing currently, like we had to move everything up, is not necessarily, we are not guaranteeing live streaming for it, but we are going to do our best. Because last year it ended up not starting. I don't think we were able to start live streaming like 4 p.m. So we're hoping that we don't have that issue this year, but it's all good. It will be something. We're just working on all of the logistics and making sure everything in regards to the race primarily goes off without a hitch.
Yeah,
so that's
number
what we're
one.
mostly focused on. But the live stream will be available Saturday and Sunday for sure.
Wonderful. Well, and that's going to be really exciting too, because there's a lot of masters racing on Saturday as well. So, and Sunday.
You mentioned and Sunday morning too, but you also mentioned all of the international folks this year. We're very excited to have some additional collegiate European crews joining us. I'll just put that out there for now. I'm not going to say who, but I will say that it's going to be a very exciting year at Crew Classic.
Yes. Well, and for those people who are interested, when they go on to Regatta Central, if you go in, once the entries start coming in, you'll actually, if you go into the events you're interested in, you can start to see who's listed in the entries. So you can take
I would look in January. That's when I'll release the invitationals, and then you'll get to see them.
Oh, okay.
I keep it private for a little while, very close to the heart. But I'm very excited, and it's not just men's crews; it'll be women's crews too. So it's going to be a really great year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I'm just going to say goodbye to our listeners, and we'll be back in 1 second.
Bye.
So this has been Faster Masters Rowing Radio, the show dedicated to masters athletes who want fun, fitness, and confidence in their rowing. Become a student of the sport by buying a Faster Masters Rowing program subscription today at fastermastersrowing.com/join. And we'd really like to thank San Diego Crew Classic and Bobbie Smith for being our guest on today's podcast.